Brian Thomas is the Commissioner of Urban and Economic Development in the city of Utica. Brian, good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Morning, Bill.
You know, a lot of times we talk about things, we have no idea what we're talking about.
Speak for yourself.
That's true, yeah. It's probably all me. This is in the weeds. This whole thing is really quite complicated and trying to follow the process by which this hospital actually does make its way downtown. So the other night, the planning board voted 3-1 to make Utica the lead agency on the hospital project. What does that mean for city taxpayers? What does it mean for the city of Utica?
Well, SEQR stands for State Environmental Quality Review Act, which is a required process by the state that all projects that receive government funding or permits and approvals must go through.
Got it.
It's a process by which the impacts or the expected impacts from a proposed project are evaluated and analyzed. To do that, for larger projects, there needs to be a lead agent, a body which has some permitting or funding approval within the process, authority within the overall process, who will coordinate that review. The planning board, as you noted, voted 3-1 to designate itself as lead agent. There are roughly 15 agencies that were identified by Mohawk Valley Health Systems as having some role in the process, whether it be through funding or a permit approval. Any one of those 15 agencies, the state calls them involved agencies, could have acted similarly to the planning board and designated itself as lead agent.
Right. So that doesn't change the number of agencies involved. It just is the lead agency that's moving the process forward.
Correct.
The board got some criticism. Specifically, I know some No Hospital Downtown folks critical of this. When you say permitting, what is that? I guess what I'm getting at is it makes sense to me that Utica would be the lead because it involves
Utica
transfer of property and permitting and things like that. Why would you want, like, the hospital board to be the one approving that, right? It should
I don't
be
think the
city.
hospital board could do that.
The hospital board was not an involved agency. They're the project sponsor.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why anybody other than Utica?
Quite frankly, all of the 15 agencies that were identified, 3 or 4 were state agencies because of their permitting role in the process. Department of Health, Department of Mental Health, or their funding authority through the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York. All the rest were local agencies, either county or mostly city agencies.
Is there any additional cost for the city of Utica because of the fact that they've taken on this responsibility?
There is not. This is a role that the planning board plays in a lot of projects. This is one of the larger projects that will come before the planning board in the last few years. But it's certainly well within their wheelhouse to undertake.
Got it. There is now proof, because the secret process should have happened before they were pushing the downtown location. There is corruption here, and you're lining your pockets. You realize I'm regurgitating stuff that I've read on the No Hospital Downtown
I do.
Facebook page. So what is true?
The planning board is made up of 5 private citizens.
Who had just had to endure basically a death threat, which is quite ridiculous.
I agree.
Yeah.
But they're 5 private citizens that have ultimate final site plan authority over the project and all construction projects within the city of Utica. So this is something that they handle on a routine basis.
But for politicians, and I think we were talking about this yesterday, there's no doubt Anthony Brindisi wanted this to go downtown. There are other politicians that wanted to go downtown, including the mayor wants it to go downtown. Now, we'll debate over who should pay for the parking garage and all of that, but a lot of people feel this is transformational. And I felt that if there's anything that came out of these foiled emails, it's that there was a sincerity on the part of whether it's Pacini or Anthony Brindisi or any of those involved. A sincerity being they really truly believe that this is going to transform downtown 2 different ways. One with healthcare and the other by transforming an area of downtown that really needs some assistance. So is it wrong for them to have that opinion, to want to lobby to have that go downtown before the secret process is complete? Or does that have anything to do with it?
No, I don't think it's wrong. I agree that it holds a huge transformational potential for downtown Utica.
How does sincerity...
Prior to this, though, the seeker would have been premature. The hospital is now starting to line up its approvals and starting to go out and secure those approvals. And the first one they sought was funding assistance from the Oneida County Local Development Corporation, which requires that SEQR be approved before any benefits are granted.
You were making the case to me that there was some criticism that you didn't allow public comment ahead of this. But you were making the case to me that it wasn't necessary here, and that SEQR actually, the whole purpose of the process is to get public feedback. Can you talk more about that? Sure.
The SEQR regulations are very specific in terms of when public comment is required. The designation of a lead agent does not require public comment, public input. However, in all likelihood, this process will result in the development of an environmental impact statement, and through that process, there is required periods for public comment.
Wouldn't you rather be, if you're against the downtown hospital, wouldn't you rather Utica be the lead agency? I mean, if I'm someone who's saying I don't want this to happen, I don't want the county handling this. This is our city. I want the city planning board to be the lead agency here. Isn't there that actually a benefit to the no hospital downtown people potentially?
I certainly think so.
I thought so too.
Yeah,
and I also question.
So I think we're arguing over. We're just arguing to argue now. It seems. It just seems ridiculous.
It does seem that way.
Yeah.
And I would argue that this is a process that the opponents have been asking for months, if not the past several years.
Something could come out of this.
They've asked for answers to their questions.
Right.
And this SEQR process will provide analytical responses to their questions.
Is it possible that out of this we could learn that some of the properties are just so contaminated that it would not be cost effective to even bring the hospital downtown? Is it possible that through this process we could learn that for some reason the hospital can't go downtown?
This process is intended to bring out the environmental impacts.
Right.
And that may require a change in the site plan that's been proposed by Mohawk Valley Health Systems. Absolutely.
Again, what are we arguing about here? Why are we throwing out death threats when you would rather have the city of Utica in control of this? That's my take on it.
And really, the designation of the lead agency was just the first step in starting that process.
I'll just share a couple texts I got. One of them says, bull blank. The other one says, they could have taken public comment if they chose to. Again, I don't know why.
You're going to take public comment on the fact that you're going to take public comment. You're taking public comment on the fact that you're pointing to an agency that's going to basically regulate and direct the public comment. I don't think that deserves public comment. It's not costing any taxpayer dollars. You're promising me this isn't costing the city of Utica anything to do this. Then what are we arguing over?
I agree.
Okay. Well, you must be covering something up. Can we see the lining in your pockets? Because there's got to be something there.
Angelo frisk Brian on the way out.
All right. So any other questions?
Yeah, what's the next step? Where do we go from here now?
The next step is all involved agencies, the 15 that I mentioned, have been given until March 3rd as a deadline to express their willingness to act as lead agent. At that point, we'll determine whether there were multiple agencies seeking to be lead agent or if the planning board is the sole body that's designated itself. Assuming that the planning board is the sole body that's decided to designate itself as lead agent, it will be incumbent upon the planning board members to review the full EAF, environmental assessment form that's been submitted by Mohawk Valley Health Systems, and then make a determination as to whether there are definitely environmental impacts anticipated, in which case they would issue a positive declaration, or if there's no environmental impacts anticipated, they would issue a negative declaration.
Who does the study? Who looks to see if there's is that state folks? Is that local folks?
Mohawk Valley Health Systems is the project sponsor, is responsible for hiring the necessary engineers to look at all the various components.
Somebody's asking about the mayor has dedicated a position that is going to be a planner, a full-time planner. Is that costing the city?
I believe that was the county executive. The county executive.
Okay.
The urban development, the economic
Right, but there's no planner that the
Economic
mayor. So
development
the mayor
role.
has not set forth for someone to take that role for this specific project. What the county executive is talking about is basically an economic development position. It would be somebody that would oversee all economic development.
Beyond
somebody
the project,
saying they feel that the mayor has dedicated a position just for this project.
No.
You're saying that's not true.
No, it's being handled.
And
by
then
existing staff.
somebody else asking about who's paying for the removal and relocation of underground electrical lines, piping for gas and water, et cetera, et cetera.
Again, we're going to look at that as the process plays itself out, exactly how much of that work is going to need to be done. The MVHS
Could the city be
and their
responsible for that?
Unlikely.
Okay, you feel that's unlikely that the city would be responsible for that financial burden.
The plan has been developed in such a way that it tries to limit that kind of work, as it can get very expensive.
And then I want to ask, does this process have anything to do with or make any determination who is going to handle eminent domain?
It does not.
Okay. Do we know at this point who is going to handle eminent domain?
I believe that Mohawk Valley Health Systems is still evaluating that question.
Okay. But they could not handle the eminent domain.
No, they do not have eminent domain authority.
So why would they be evaluating that question? Why do they evaluate the question?
They're evaluating who has the authority and who would be the most appropriate to
and then
undertake that.
They'll reach out to that entity and say, okay, we need you to handle this.
Correct.
It is interesting. No one seems to want to touch that.
It is a highly sensitive issue.
It is. It certainly certainly not pretty. Okay, anything else? Anything that we didn't ask you that you think we should have?
No, I think you covered just about everything.
Okay, all right. Yeah. All right, we appreciate it. Brian Thomas, Commissioner of Urban and Economic Development, getting out here and getting in front of this. Again, I do believe that the vote the other night was actually something that the No Hospital Downtown people should be pleased with. I would think.
I would have thought so as well.
Just my take.